Hi, everybody. So I went live a little early. I have to find the video on my tablet here. I have to have two computers set up. So hopefully people are going to be able to start hearing me soon. Let's see, I got to find myself. Oops. Let's see if I can find, oh, there I am. Looks like I'm on. Okay. So give me a second here. Tablet here. The second, I have to have two computers set up. So gotta turn the sound down. There we go. Hi, Jackie. Is everybody hearing me okay? Okay, I think I got it. I always have to do a lot of extra stuff when I do the software classes because I can't see your comments and share my screen at the same time. So yeah, isn't it nice to be back? Thanks everybody for a happy new year last year and supporting me. And so happy new year. We're back to classes again. And I've gotten a lot of work done the last like 4 weeks though. Been working. It's been nice that I had, a whole day on Sunday to work. But I did get a lot of stuff done. Hi everybody. Is everybody hearing me okay? Looks like you are. Cool. Hi Pat. Hi Debbie. Cool. Yeah, the microphone on this laptop is pretty good actually. I wish I'm going to upgrade my other camera, I think, because I've been having a little trouble with the camera, not having good audio. The video is good, but my other camera, the audio is not terribly good. So I've been looking at cameras. Hi, Judy. Hi, Deb. Oh, Colleen's here. Marianne's here. Lots of people. So we'll wait a few minutes until people have time to get on. Oh, here's Kathy and Orlin and Marcia. How is everybody tonight? Yeah, it was kind of funny having a month off. I don't know that I've taken that long off of teaching for a long time because I don't teach a whole lot in the winter normally because of people coming in, but of course no one can come in the store right now for classes. So I just decided I'd just keep on teaching. So usually I take January and February off. I think I had to have some tea. I'm kind of sleepy tonight. All right, we're getting a few people on. Okay, so just so you know, I uploaded a couple of things for this card to the Dropbox. So, you go to Sessions on Software with Jan, and the very first post has the Dropbox link in it, and you can click there, and it's under Mylar Valentine card, I think is what it is. And I put up a folder with I believe it's the sewing instructions, the C2S file of this design, the PES file of this design, and there was one other thing, and I can't remember what the other thing was, but I put up a folder that you can download. So I actually do have the design up there. So if some of you don't have the software, the actual design is up there, so you can just download it and sew it out. So if you don't have the software, some people like to come to the classes even though they don't have the software, but I do have it up there that you can sew it to. So, but I got this idea from Lynn, actually. She had done some really cute Christmas cards at Christmas time that Anita Good Design did. And I thought, well, this would be fun to make something for Valentine's Day and then show you how to digitize for the Mylar. I mean, Mylar is not all that, it's not real hard to digitize for. It's mostly what you got to do is, it's just an applique which we have done before, but then you have to put like a loose fill over the top of it so that it holds that Mylar in place as the applique. It's not strong enough just to be left uncovered, so you have to do something over the top of the Mylar. Oh, somebody said something about a room. I don't know what's going on, but is everybody still hearing me okay? Can you still hear me? I'm breaking up. Well, I think that's you, Judy. Is everybody hearing me okay? Can you do some thumbs ups if you're hearing me all right? Still? Something came through that somebody had a room going or something. So just be careful what you press on, because there's a lot of stuff, new stuff on Facebook, and not all of it works real well. So I'm still struggling with Facebook, the new Facebook. So okay, so I'm good. Okay, good. That's what I wanted to hear. So people keep texting me and stuff. So we'll see what this has to say here. Just a second. I got a text on my phone. Oh, Lynn texted me. Lynn, you see, yours are always so beautiful. You'll have to put that up on the group, will you? She sent me the picture of her card that she sewed out. I mean, Lynn is like the card guru. So she's going to teach us how to really make these cards beautiful. And hers is just absolutely gorgeous. So hopefully she'll put it up on the group. I'm sure she will. So, okay. All right. So we are going to make this little card. And like I said, I got this idea when Lynn did these little cards for the Embroidery Club in Davenport. We did these online. And they were really fun to do. And I use that cardstock, that pre-folded cardstock you can buy with envelopes at Joann's. I buy them at Joann's, and they're 5x7 cards. So this is a 5x7 card. They also make the smaller ones, so you could make one that would fit for the smaller cards as well if you wanted to. I just like these bigger ones, and it's just a little easier to work with. So we went with the 5x7 cards. So I'm going to show you how I digitize this. It's actually very easy. It's just an applique, and with some lettering. And then the only difference is you're going to be sewing on some paper with the felt. And the felt actually works very well on these because it gives it a nice stable base. And then you don't have to be quite so careful sewing on cardstock, because cardstock, is cardstock. It's paper. Yeah, Lynn said you can make your own card out of cardstock. She makes her own, and I just buy the ones that are already done because they come with the envelopes, which I think is cool, because then I have the envelope and the card. So I'm lazy and I just buy those from Joann's. So I have those 5x7, but they're the 5x7 size. And what was the number size, Lynn? They have a number, like card stuff has like it's a number blah envelope and card. So maybe you can find that out for me and tell everybody. Okay, so we're going to make this card. It was very fun to do this. It was just a very fun and easy, and I think everybody will really enjoy it. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to minimize this little picture. I'm sure you can, Lynn. Oh, an A7 card. Thank you. You can make your own envelope too. Well, thanks, but I kind of like the ones that are already done. It's a lot easier. I don't do much with paper. Okay, so I got to find my software. Here it is. Okay, so we're gonna go. I've got some other things going on. I've got some new software on here tonight. I've got some other things working, and I'm trying to work on some new things for the summer, actually. So, okay, so of course, when we open up our tool shed, the icon says Embroidery Tool Shed right now, but we're going to be working in Perfect Embroidery Pro. And when it opens up, we're going to have our little, today screen opens up here, and we're going to click on create a new design. Now, if you're not on the internet, this little box will not pop up, just so you know. So if you happen to be on a computer that's not on the internet, the little box doesn't pop up. If it doesn't pop up, and you just click, this little box doesn't pop up, your screen is going to look grayed out when you do this. Normally I click create a new design at the bottom, And if it's all gray though, like you know, it didn't pop up, you need to click the new piece of paper on the top left-hand corner to get your software going. Okay. So if yours is gray and all your buttons are gray, make sure you click the new piece of paper on the top left-hand corner to get started. All right. So let's look and see. We'll make sure we're in PEP. Remember all these little tabs down here at the bottom. The little one that has the little shopping cart on it will allow you to see what you have active on your computer. And I have Perfect Embroidery Pro active because I have a yellow check mark next to it. And then that one is my default because that option is not available when you click on the little polka dots next to it. So my this is the default program that comes open when I open my software. Okay. If you were, for instance, wanting to go into, I like to review this because, you know, this is something that people ask me a lot. Let's say, for instance, I wanted to go into the lace maker program. I could go down here and see I have a yellow check mark next to it. And then I would click the little 3 little polka dots, and then I would make that the default to go into that program. And then you notice that my icons changed then. So you just need to be aware of which one you're in. I always like to leave PEP as my default setting because I normally use this software. Okay. Jan, you cannot do this with just Toolshed because the Toolshed has a lot of editing abilities and you can change the sizes and all that and the colors and everything, but you cannot use, it doesn't have any digitizing tools. So you have to have Perfect Embroidery Pro to do the digitizing. But if you have other software, it's going to be similar. So I think you would enjoy watching it because if you have some other software, which I thought you did, then you know a lot of the tools are the same. So you'll be able to do it. Okay. All right. So let's get started. And so when I start doing a digitizing project like this, I kind of think through what has to happen for me to get this card. So the first thing that's going to happen, like when I'm sewing it, so I kind of think about it as a sewer, you know, and as an embroiderer. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hoop some stabilizer in my hoop. And I believe I used Tearaway for this one, okay? And then the first thing I need is to get a placement line down there so that I know where to put the card in the hoop. Okay, and we're going to use a 5x7 hoop, just so you know. Okay, so the first thing then is we're going to make a placement line. So to make a placement line, I'm going to go up and get my artwork tool, which is, you know, the little pencil, circle, and square. And I'm going to go get a rectangle. And then I'm just going to come down here on my workspace and I'm going to kind of start over on the top left-hand corner and then kind of move down. I'm holding my mouse button down and just kind of moving down to the bottom right-hand corner and letting go. It doesn't matter what size it is because we can fix that in a little bit. Okay. Now I want to transform this so that it is a certain size. All right. So I'm going to go get my selection tool so that now that square that I just did is selected. You can see the little boxes around it. And I want to go up here to my properties box, and that's where we go to do everything in the software. I'm going to click the Transform tab. Okay. Now this particular design, I remember I told you I had a 5x7 card. So I want to make a rectangle that's 5 inches wide by 7 inches tall. And in order to do that, you can see my stuff is semi-square, but not real square. I need to deselect maintain aspect ratio so I can tell the software, Jackie, yes, you do. You have PEP because that's what we activated on your computer. So you just need to select it in the selection box down here because you just activated it, and then tell that to be your default because that's what will come up. The icon on your computer says Embroidery Toolshed, but that encompasses all the software. Okay, so yes, you do have it. You just need to go down to the little green shopping cart, go to the little polka dots, and then tell it to be your default. And then it will come up in Perfect Embroidery Pro. It may already be there because it normally defaults at that one. Okay. Where do you get it? Where do you get Perfect Embroidery Pro? You can call me at the store and we have it. Did you not activate your software, Jackie? Why don't you text me later? Because you were taking, you said you got your email. I assume that you went in and did your activation. So you must be on a different, maybe you're on a different computer than your new one that we just did. Because that one I thought you had it all activated. I did not see it on Dime. So Jan, you can email me or call me on Tuesday, and you can buy this software from the store. Okay. How much? The software with the people that are in my group, Tim is allowing me to sell it for the people that are in this group only for $15.99. It's normally $17.99. So $1,799 normally. And he said that people in this group, since you come to classes, can get it for $15.99. Okay. It's really good software and it's super user friendly. Okay. So now we're going to make this is our card, and this is going to be the placement line. So I'm going to go up here to the width. I want it to be 5 inches. So I'm just going to type in the number 5, and then I'm going to go down to the height, and I'm going to type on the number 7, and then I'm going to click apply. Yeah, Jackie, just text me later. We'll just make sure that you got it actually active. Okay, now what happened to my square? It's gone. This is what happens sometimes, and it's a little, it's like, wow, where did it go? Okay, so then I go up here to the top, and there's a little place up here that is the zoom box that says 200% right now. Well, it won't show my whole box, so I'm going to go ahead and click on the little arrow, and I'm going to tell it to fit. And then now I can see my 5x7 card on my screen. Okay, now I do want to have this also. I like to keep everything centered in my screen so that I know things are coming in and I know where the center of everything is in my workspace. So to do that, you could just grab it, and there's a 0 line here and a 0 line here, and you could just manually move it. But there is a new tool in this software in the last couple of years that is cool. Let me select it again. If you go up here to the ruler bar and just right click on the ruler bar and go down to center origin, it will put everything in the center of your workspace, which is very handy. I like to keep things centered so then I have an idea of how big things are and I can look at the numbers at the top. Okay. So this is going to be our placement line. And if I go down here to the bottom again, where it says my purchases right now, I can go to the sequence view, because what that does is that allows me to see what things are on my workspace. Okay, so right now, if I click on this first thing and there's a little plus sign there, I can click on that and it tells me this is just artwork. Well, artwork doesn't sew, does it? So we need to make this into a stitch file. So to do that, we've got it fit where we want it. We got it the size we want it. Now I'm going to select it. I'm going to right click. I'm going to convert to a run, because I just want this to be a placement line. So it just needs to be a run stitch. So I'm going to convert it to a run. I'm going to go over here now in my properties box. See, my properties box is slightly different because it's all the stuff I can do to my run stitches. I'm going to leave the stitch length at 3. Since it's got card stock in it, I don't want the stitches to be too close together because it'll rip through my card. So I'm going to leave it at 3, so it's a little longer stitch. And I'm going to leave it at standard. That means that it's just going to go around the card one time. Okay, we just need just one run stitch around the card. And I like to do some tie-ins and tie-offs so that it will tie a knot at the beginning and at the end. It's not as necessary on this particular run stitch because it's just a placement line, but I'm going to copy and paste to the next pieces, and it makes it a lot easier for me if they're all the same. So to make it have a tie-in and a tie-off, I have to go to the Commands tab, and then I have to go tie-in, basic, tie-off, basic. And then I'm going to click apply again. So now that outline has a tie-in and a tie-off on it as well. And if I go back to run, it tells me it's a standard run and it's 3mm stitch length. Okay. So that is our placement line. So you kind of have to work this through in your head. The first thing we need is the placement line. Then we're going to take the card and we're going to place it down in that placement line. And what I usually do is use a little fabric glue stick to stick it down in there so that it stays put, because the next line is going to tack that cardstock down and be a felt placement line, because I have a piece of felt. If I show you my picture again here, I have a piece of felt with this pretty decorative stitch around the outside edge. So we want a placement line for that, but it can also serve as the tack down to keep the card in place. Okay, so we're going to have kind of a 2-for-1 here. Okay. All right, so I like to do applique this way because then I know everything's exactly the size I want it to be. And in this case, I'm just going to copy and paste. So I've got this outline that we already did. I'm going to go up to the top and click on the copy button. That is correct. So yeah, so when you put the card down, you want to put the front of the card in that opening. That's what Lynn is saying. And then like the back of the card is going to be hanging off the hoop to the left. Okay, like over the arm of the machine. Does that make sense, Lynn? Hopefully that made sense. All right. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to click copy. And then I'm going to paste. So I have a second outline. I'm going to click the paste button right next to it. Now, if you look over here in my sequence view, you will see that I have I have 2 runs now. But I need it to stop in between these things. So I want to go down and I'm going to right click on color number 2 so that I can have the machine will stop in between these 2 things because we have to do something. So I'm going to right click on number 2 and now you see I have the first outline is in color 1 and the second outline is in color 2. Okay, and it doesn't matter what color it is because you're going to put in whatever colors you want. All right. Now we need to make sure that we have the second outline selected. So I did that in my sequence view to make sure that I have the right one. And I want to transform this because I actually want it to be somewhat smaller than the outside line. So I'm going to transform this. So I have it selected. I'm going to go to the top up here to the properties box and go to transform. And I want this to be, I'm also going to leave that maintain aspect ratio deselected so I can put in my mounts. I wanted it to be about a 1/2 inch, or in other words, about 1/4 inch smaller all the way around. So I'm going to type in the width of 4.5 and I want the height to be 6.5 and click apply. So that moved my second rectangle in 1/4 inch all the way around. And that will then be the card tack down. So we place the card in the hoop, and then this one's going to sew, and it's going to tack the card down, but it's also going to tell us where to put our felt for the second step, or for the next step, I should say. All right. And if I go back and look at the commands tab, since we copied and pasted, it still says I have a tie-in of basic and a tie-off at basic. And these are going to be more needed, these tie-ins and tie-offs in the first one, but it just makes everything uniform. Okay. So the next step then, so we're thinking this through, we've got our placement line. So now we need to lay our felt in there and we need to tack down the felt. So this time I'm going to copy and paste again the second step because I want it to be that smaller size. So I've got that one selected. I'm going to go up to the top where it says copy. And again, I'm going to hit paste. Oops, second here. I don't think it, there it went. And then click paste. And now I have 2 runs underneath color number 2. Well, we need that to also stop because we have to do something. So I'm going to go down here to the bottom. I'm going to right click on number 3, right click on number 3 to get the color change. And now I have the third color in there. Okay, now this one's going to be like a tack down line for that felt. So I want it to sew around it a couple of times so that when I go to trim along my felt, it's more secure and not as dainty or as delicate. So I want to change the type of run stitch. So I've got the third one selected in my sequence view, and I want to go up to run. And I'm going to leave my stitch length at 3. That's fine, because remember, we are working with cardstock, so I don't want really short stitches. But I am going to change the type to 2-ply. So in other words, it will drive around that felt 2 times. Okay, so I'm just going to type in 2-ply and click apply. So now we have our placement line, which is the first thing. We have our tack down and second placement line, which is together as one, the second part. And then the third line is going to be our tack down line for our felt. And then we will trim the felt. Okay, I think I had to trim right away. Let me look on my instructions here. Yes, I did. Sometimes I don't. It depends on what it's doing, but I did have you trim it. Okay, so then step number 4 is going to be that pretty decorative outline. So this little decorative outline that I put around the felt. Okay, so again, since we already have that line there, it makes it real easy. I'm just going to go again. I'm going to copy that line. Okay, so the third one, I'm just going to copy it. I'll go up to copy, and I'm going to click paste again. So now I've got 2 runs under my third color, and I want to go and I'm going to right click on number 4 for the color numbers down here, because I need it to stop in between this again, because you know we have to trim before it does the decorative stitch. But this is going to be a different type of run. This is still a run, but it's called a motif. So we have to go up here to the type, and we need to choose the word motif because it's kind of a pretty decorative fill. I just chose number 100. There's tons of these in here. So if you click on that little arrow, there's all these different decorative stitches. Now, some of these are kind of dense for cardstock. So I chose one that is pretty open so that it doesn't have too many stitches. And that's why I chose 100. I thought that would be a pretty one, but it is not too dense for this cardstock. Because remember, we are sewing on a piece of paper, okay? Then I can do some different things. I can change the pattern length. Now, the default length comes up at 10. That is very large. So for this particular thing, it was way too big. And I discovered that the length should be 5 with this particular design so that it wouldn't go over too far onto the edging that I put on my card. And number 100, I'm going to leave everything else at the default, and I'm going to go ahead and hit apply. And then let's bring this up a little bit bigger so you can see there's our decorative fill. That's going to go over our felt on the edge. Okay. All right, so now we're getting to the Mylar part. So we've got the beginning stuff. Now, like this, if you wanted to make more cards, this is the part that you might want to like save just by itself even, because then you can just take the other parts out and you can use it over and over, because this part will probably always stay the same. You might change your motif fill around the outside edge, but the other stuff would be already done for you so that you can make all different kinds of cards. You can make Easter cards or, you know, St. Patrick's Day cards, whatever you want to make. Okay, so this makes it easy. You can just, you know, go back in here and pull things out and put new things in. Okay, so let's go back up here to fit so that we can see the whole card. And the next section then is we're going to do that Mylar Heart. And it's also a applique, but it's going to be done a little differently because of that Mylar in there. So I'm going to go back up to my artwork tool, the little pen, circle, and square, click the little arrow, and I'm going to go down, and guess what? Look, there's a heart. So I'm just going to grab the heart shape. It's right there. There's a whole bunch of different shapes there, as you could see. You know, there's a heart, a flower, a spiral, a leaf, hexagon. There's all these different shapes. So let's just get the heart. And I'm just going to draw a heart. Doesn't matter what size it is. I made mine relatively large. Just make it the size you'd like it to be. Okay. And I want to move it kind of towards the bottom of the card because I wanted to put some letters above it. So I'm going to get my selection tool. And I also want to center this because remember I did center origin for the rest of it. I know that it's centered horizontally and vertically. So these little, this is how I center things in here. The little squares that are in the center here or on the center sides, those are the centers of the design. So like this little square is slightly off my 0 line that's vertical. So I'm going to use my control key and the arrows on my keyboard, and I'm just going to bump that over a little bit so that it's centered side to side in my card. And I think that looks good. And again, you can make your heart any size. You could do 2 hearts or 4 hearts if you wanted to. I just wanted to make it simple since we had a class that I wanted to spend about an hour, so I didn't want to make too many things that we had to do too many steps. So I've got my heart on here. I've got it kind of centered where I want it, and I've got it selected. And if you look down here, and it doesn't matter what color you have it chosen, it's going to stop in between. You can see I've got, what, 4 colors here. Oops, second. Keep pushing the wrong button. So I've got my placement line, my tack down line, placement line, my tack down line, and then my decorative stitch. And then here's our heart. So the heart is also going to be an applique, but this time we're going to actually make it an applique. So I've got it selected. I'm going to right click on it again. I'm going to convert to an applique. So now if I go down and look at the bottom piece here, it's going to say that I have an applique under there. Okay. But I need to do, we need to do a couple of settings. So we're going to do the settings, but then we're going to do something that we normally don't do because I need to see the pieces of this applique. Okay, because right now all I can see is the word applique. So the first thing I want to do is go back up here to my properties box and make a few changes. The satin width at 3.5 is good. The length, stitch length, I like it to be, on this one, I made it 3 because that's going to be your placement, tack down line, stitch lengths. And I don't want it to be too small, again, for the cardstock. When I'm sewing on fabric, I like to make it 2.5 because it makes it smaller. Okay, so we're going to leave that at 3. And I want the inset. In other words, I would like a little bit more of the satin stitch on the inside of my heart than on the outside. So I'm going to change my inset percentage to 60%. Just move it in just a little bit. And then down here, I need it to have a placement line and a tack down line. Okay. And then I've also got it checked here that it will change colors. So it didn't used to do that they were always the same color. And sometimes the machines would not read the stop. So they've added that to the software that if you click this, it says change colors. Okay. So I like that because then like the placement line will be one color and the tack down line will be a different color. Okay. So I've got that, and now I'm going to click apply. So I've got those changes made to my heart. But I can still only see the word applique here. I need to look at pieces of this because we need to add something to this applique because of this Mylar being in here. So when I've got my applique selected, I'm going to go ahead and right click, and there's a way that I'll be able to do that then. I can go up and I can break up the path. And what that means, it's going to break up that applique so that I can see the placement line, the tack down line, and then the applique or satin stitch line. Okay, so if I hit break up path, now I go up here and see now there's that decorative stitch, And then the next one down is my placement stitch for the applique, my tack down stitch for the applique, and then the applique or the satin stitch. So the pieces are all different, and you can see they're all different colors here. So I don't need to change the colors, they're already different. Okay? So because I need to add a step to this applique. This is an unusual applique in that I need to have a fill stitch over that Mylar because it won't tear out. Okay, so I am going to look at my pieces of my applique. So remember, the first piece we know is a placement line, and the second line is going to be a tack down. So if you look at the difference, if I click on the first one again, see it says that it's a standard. So in other words, it's just a single stitch. Okay. Then the second one, which is my tack down line, which is going to tack down my applique material, is a 2-ply. So if I look up here, it says 2-ply then. All right. So I want that to be a 2-ply. That's good. So I want that one chosen. I'm again going to go back up to the copy button and then the paste button, because I need another one of those, but we're going to change it a little bit. So you can see now underneath that tack down line, here's the first one and then the second one. So I have a second one, but I want it now, instead of just to be an outline, I've already got one outline, I want that, but I also want to fill. So I'm going to go ahead, I've got the second one selected, I'm going to right click, I'm going to convert to a complex fill. And it'll default as coming up as a deselect as like a solid, fill. Well, that's not really what I want. I need something less solid than that. I'm going to select my complex fill over here, and I am going to change that. Instead of the fill type standard, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change that to motif, because I want it to be a fill that is quite open, but still decorative and pretty, that will hold that Mylar down so that it won't rip. Okay. So I kind of looked through here and I thought, well, let's see. We don't want it to be too busy, and it can't be too dense. It needs to be real open. And I saw this little one that looks like diamonds, and it was number 103. And I thought, well, that'll look good. So we'll try that one. And then I want to look at the pattern length. Now, again, it defaulted to 10, so it's really big. This was a fairly small heart. And also you need that cover to be a little closer together, otherwise your Mylar might rip. So I kind of played around with it a little bit, and I thought that the length of 4.5 seemed to be pretty good. And I'm going to click apply. So now we've got over here in our heart, I'll make this a little bigger so you can see it. Now over here in our heart is the little diamond shape. But I kind of looked at it and I thought, I don't like the angle. It's kind of weird looking. So it doesn't look like diamonds. I wanted it to kind of look like diamonds. So I decided I wanted to change the angle. So let's try that. So I've got it selected. And you need to go get your shape tool, because that allows you to edit things in the fill. So it's the second one down on the left. It looks like the arrow pointer, but with like polka dots on the top. Okay. And when I see this come up, now I've got all these little nodes and these little red and green little circles, and then this line with black circles on it. Okay. That is the angle of the fill. This line with the black circles. So all I need to do is, I wanted mine to look like diamonds, like it did in the choice that I chose up there at the 103. So I'm going to take the little black circle, I'm going to grab it with my mouse, and I'm going to pull it over to the center of the heart here. And then I'm going to run down and get the other half of it and pull it down to the bottom. And then I'm going to click enter on my keyboard, and voila, I have diamonds in my heart now. Okay, so that was easy to fix the angle. You can change this anyway. I can move these around. I can just change anything I want here and hit enter. And change the different angles. So it's very simple to change the angles of any of the fills. Okay. And it does, and I don't know if you can see it too well on the screen, but as you move the little black circles, it gives you the angle, degree angle, like in a little box that follows along with you. I don't know if you can see that on the screen though, very well. All right, so we'll go back to, there's our diamonds on there. Okay, so I think I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go back to fit here so you can see the whole thing. So there's our heart. So the way then this is going to sew out when we get ready to do our Mylar, so let's talk about that a little bit. Jackie, you also have embroidery suite, not embroidery. You have embroidery suite, not embroidery pro. So yours might be slightly different than mine. Anyway, that might have been the problem that you were having. So if after class, why don't you just call me and I'll explain it. Because that's right, you have Perfect Embroidery Suite, not Pro. So I think it is active. I think it's fine. Okay, so when we look at these designs, this is well, let's look at the heart part. This is the applique part. The first thing, of course, was going to be our placement line, so we know where to put the Mylar down. And then we're going to lay our Mylar down, and the first thing it's going to do is it's going to go around it twice. And then, without stopping, because it's both the same color, it's going to do that little complex fill with our diamonds over the top of it so that it'll hold all that Mylar down. And then, after that, we're going to trim around the outside edge of the Mylar. Now, normally I rip Mylar, but for some reason, this one seemed to work better with actually trimming it. So I did actually trim it with scissors. It seemed to work a little bit better. And then then the next thing that will happen is the satin stitch that will cover up the raw edge. And I don't know if it was because of the diamonds, like one of the little spots wanted to kind of rip in a little bit because the diamond was like, let a little triangle rip out a little bit. So I think actually trimming it with the scissors worked quite well in this case. I will look into some other fills to see if I can find some that will rip better, but the trimming of this one was very easy. It's large enough and it was a simple shape, okay? All right, so now I have my heart on here and now I'm ready to add some lettering. So we've done this before, this is simple. I'm gonna go up to my T, letter T, which is my text tool. And I'm going to come down here and just, click on my workspace. And then it brings up all my text stuff over here in the properties box. And I want to type in the word Happy Valentine's Day. So let's look at our little picture here. I had Happy Valentine's Day on 3 lines. Okay. So I'm going to go over here in the little box in my properties box, and I am going to type in happy. Whoops, Jan can't spell tonight. And I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard so I can drop down to the next line. And I'm going to type Valentine's. This one might really get me. Let's see if I can spell Valentine's. And then I'm going to hit my enter key again. And then I'm going to type day. All right. Then I'm going to do some settings in here. So I would like the font. I wanted it to be kind of a pretty cursive font. And so I just kind of looked down through here and I thought, I know I like that one. It's just called cursive. So that's the one I chose, is cursive. Okay. And then I just left pretty much all the settings at default. And I was happy with, the size it was and everything, except that we'll do a slight alteration here in a second. You can change, of course, the height and everything here, but in this case, I really didn't need to because it was very close. I just needed to slightly adjust it. So I'm just going to go down here to over here and get my selection tool so that I can have just the selection tool around the letters, and it's just a little bit too big. So I'm just going to grab the corner and just pull it in just a little bit so that it fits nicely within my card. So you can make it any size you want. I just made it so that it pleased me. Again, I'm going to look at those little nodes, those little selection nodes, to make sure that I have them centered on my 0 line. And I have my Happy Valentine's Day where I want it. Looks pretty good. And then I need it to stop. So if you look down here again with the applique, the text is the same color as the applique. Well, we want it to stop in between here. Okay, so I'm going to go down, and I'm just going to click on color number 2 so that it'll be a different color, so it'll stop in between. So we'll just do number 2. And now that applique, the letters are here. Here's the last part of the applique. Yes, Jan, it does. It automatically recalculates the stitch count. When you, it's the program defaults at that. So when you just bring it in, it does recalculate the stitches. Yes. And even the free one does that when you do, when you resize things in the free version of this, it will recalculate the stitches for you. So, I mean, for people that don't really need a lot of software, the embroidery tool shed, which is the free version of this that everybody can go get. And we've talked about this a couple of times, but let me just remind you again. If you go to inspiredbydime.com, you can download the free version of embroidery tool shed, and it actually is very good for editing. You can do some simple editing. You can do some combining of designs. There's no lettering or anything in it. It's a little more simple than that, but it does have, like, you can change the colors, and you can save things in different formats. Like if you have if you also have a Bernina machine and you need it to do that, or like I know, Jan, you have another brand of machine as well, then you can change the formats. And it's very simple software, and it actually, a lot of people get by with that for a long time because it actually does quite a bit, considering it's free. So, okay. Now I'm happy with that. I think I'm happy with my Happy Valentine's Day. And there's my heart, but I wanted this to look like one of those conversation hearts. So I would like, let's look at our picture again here. I would like it to say "Be Mine" in the middle. Okay, so we're going to add some lettering on top of that Mylar, and it's okay. It's sewed out just fine with the Mylar underneath of it. So I need to go get my text tool again. I'm just going to click over here on the design space somewhere, get my properties box up, and I'm going to type in "Be Mine." I want that all on one line. Be mine. Okay. And I decided then that I wanted it to be, normally those are fairly, like the little conversation hearts, they're pretty plain. The letters are usually pretty plain on them, so you can easily read them. So I just chose, whoops, have a second here, I missed it. I chose Arial. Arial is just a very simple, clean font to use. Okay, now I have a little problem, is that all of a sudden this got really huge on my screen, and now I can't see the card. So I'm going to go back up to my zoom to fit, so that I can see both the card and the "Be Mine." Now, "Be Mine" is a little bit too big for the heart, and that's fine. I just left everything at the default, and we're going to do the same thing we did before. I'm going to go back over here to my selection tool. And then I'm just going to pull this down, and obviously it needs to be smaller. So let's just do a little, I'm going to grab the corner. If you grab the corner, it pulls it down in aspect ratio. In other words, it brings it down so that it is going to stay, in aspect to each other. That looks a little bit better. So let's bring this down. Yeah, it's still a little bit big. Bring it down a little bit more. There we go. Could be a little smaller yet. Just make it the size that you would like it to be. That looks better. Okay, put that in there, and then again, I've got it a little off kilter, so I'm going to put my control key down, and I'm going to bump this over to my center line again, so that it's in the center of my heart. And I still want it a little smaller, so I'm going to go ahead and just make it a little bit smaller yet, and reposition it a little bit. Okay, And then let's go ahead. That's also the same color as the, I just wanted to be so I could see a little bit better. It's kind of a funny color, so I went down and made it number 3. Selected it and right-clicked on number 3 just to make it a little bit so I could see a little bit better. Okay, doesn't matter what color it is. You can put whatever colors you want in your card. I put red. No, it doesn't. You just need to you just need to grab a corner, Jackie. You know, one of the corners, because that will bring it in with in aspect ratio. Because if you grab like one of the top or the bottom or the sides, then it will squish it, or it'll skew it. So you don't want to do that. Okay, so I'm actually pretty happy with that. That looks pretty good. And to fit. And then at this point, I need to save this. So I'm going to go File, Save As. Now I want to save this as, I'm just going to call it my Valentine card. Oops, still can't spell tonight. Valentine card. I want to save it as a C2S file because this is my working file that I can come back to later, and I can maybe I can make a St. Patrick's Day card out of it instead. Okay, so I want to be able to go back and alter this, and I'm just going to save it on my desktop tonight. You can save it anywhere you want. And then I want to go make this into a stitch file. So this right now, the C2S, we can't put that in our machine. I need to go File, Save As. And then I'm going to leave it the same name, and I'm going to go down and choose Save As Type. And I want to use Brother Baby Lock, the Brother PES version 9. And then I've got it on my desktop, and I'm going to click Save. Okay. So that is the digitizing. That was pretty easy, wasn't it? And it was basically 2 appliques. So we did applique 2 different ways tonight. The first applique we did with the card and the felt was, that was the way I learned originally to make appliques, was manually. I made all of the lines myself. And then when we did the heart, it was more automated. There was an applique tool, so it was more automated. And that way, there's just there's lots of different ways to make appliques. I do a lot of mine manually just because then I can choose things and I can change things around. But that way, you just saw 2 types of applique. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about the sewing so that you understand how it sews. I gave you a little piece of paper in the Dropbox. There's a little PDF file that says Mylar Valentine card, gives you the materials you need, and the 5x7 hoop, tearaway stabilizer. I use bobbin thread, and then the 5x7 card with the envelope. You need some felt and cardstock or decorative paper to finish the card. So I put like some cardstock on the inside to cover up the ugly stitches. And then Lynn had showed us some really cute little ways to make like little sentiments that go in the cards. Lynn's card is beautiful, so she's going to post that up on the group. And mine's plainer because I'm not the card guru that Lynn is. So wait till you see Lynn's, it's beautiful. Okay, so let's just walk through the steps. We'll look at our sequence view over here so you understand what the steps are. You're going to hoop your tearaway stabilizer in the 5x7 hoop. And the first thing that sews out is the placement line for the card. So it's going to do a placement line. Then you're going to stick your card down. And I used fabric glue stick for that and stuck it down in the placement line. Okay. Then the second thing that's going to sew out, step number 2 on our sequence view, the card, tack down, felt placement line. So that was a dual line. So it's going to tack down the card and then make us a placement line so we can put our felt in. Then you're going to place that felt over that placement line. Okay. Number 3 is the felt tack down line. So this is going to tack down the felt around, and then we're going to trim. The felt close to the stitches. Now, the one thing I did do with the felt is that your tack down line with this motif stitch, that's the cover stitch, will show. So I used matching thread to my motif stitch, or you can use the same color as your felt, because that way it won't show, because that will show through that. Is there a way to add notes to each step that you create if you want to? I'm not quite as sure I understand the question, Denise. Yes, you can. You actually can. You can type in like, yeah, like on the side over here. If you double click on, let's see if it still does it. It's been a while since I've done this. Yeah, they might have taken that out. You used to be able to go in and change the wording next to the steps. And I think maybe I think it's gone. I used to be able to do that in the Floriani software, but I think it's gone. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be working, so it must be gone. That was a Floriani thing. Let me see if there's anything else that will allow me to do that. I don't think so. I don't think so. That's why I wrote it out on a piece of paper. But there are notes in the design. You might be able to do the notes in the design. Like I have the note thing up here right now, and you could cut it, or you could type it out that way. Yeah, there's a place for notes, but it's not. I used to be able to go down into the actual steps. And yes, there is a notepad. Yes, there is. But I used to be able to go down to the bottom and actually do, so yes, you can add, can you see the design notes here? Here's the design notes right here. Yep, so when you don't have anything selected, here's your design notes. So yes, but I used to be able to go down to the actual line items and change the wording there. And evidently they have removed that because that must have been a Floriani thing. Because I used to do that all the time in the Floriani when this was Floriani. So they must have just removed it. But no, if there's nothing selected, the design, the file name, that's your note box up here in the properties box when there's nothing else chosen. Okay, and then yes, you can go in and put step 1, step 2, step 3, and leave it in the design, because then it will stay saved with the design. So yes. Okay, so we have our placement line. We have the placement line for our felt. We've trimmed our felt. Number 4 then is going to be the decorative outline. That's going to go around the felt for the card. Okay. Then the next step is going to be the placement line. Step number 5 is going to be the placement line for the heart. Okay. And then step number 6 has got 2 parts. Remember, it's going to do a placement line, or sorry, a tack down line for the Mylar, and then the cover stitch for the Mylar. All right, so that's number 6. Number 7 is going to be, we're going to then trim our Mylar around the edge, and then we are going to do the satin stitch over the top to cover the raw edges. Then number 8 will be the Happy Valentine's Day, and number 9 will be the Be Mine. Then you're going to remove the card, of course, from your hoop and tear tearaway stabilizer off. And then I covered up mine with some cardstock, the stitches, so that and I actually put one, like Lynn showed us how to do this the other night when we did the other cards, and I put a piece of a matching on the other side, so there's pretty paper on both sides, and then I put a little sentiment, and I gave that to you too. That's the other thing, I gave you that little sentiment that you can print off and put on the inside of your card, and it says, "Wishing the sweetest, happiest day to my favorite Valentine." Okay, so that's the other thing that was in the Dropbox. That's the 4th thing. I couldn't think what the other thing was. So. Okay, so does anybody have questions about, and I wrote out the instructions for the sewing. I wrote those out. And let me check one other thing. Did they let me do this? Ooh, so they still do, but not where I used to do it. Just a second, let me show you. So like sometimes what I would do, I can still do it. So instead of the line item that says like 405 Brother Embroidery Color 1, okay, if you click the little plus signs and get down to the item, the run, okay, I used to go in here, and then if you just like in Windows, any Windows application, if you, like when you're naming a folder, if you click twice on it, it would allow me to say placement line, card placement line. Then I could call it that, card placement line. And then I hit enter. So now, instead of it saying just run, it says card placement line. Okay, and then like the second one, but you have to go down into where the word run is. The second one then is the card tack down line. So I can type that in. So card tack down slash felt placement line. So yeah, I can still do it. I like doing that because then you can just have that. And it's right there in the design. Okay, and then instead of it saying run. And then the third thing then was like the felt tack down line. Okay, isn't that cool? So then I can say felt tack down line. I couldn't imagine they'd take it out, but I think you could also change the other part in the old software, as I remember, but maybe it was just here. But that's cool. So then I can say felt tack down line, and then the fourth thing is the decorative outline. So I could just go in there and change all of those to say what they are. And you don't have to, and you can also use the notes that come up. You can put it here, but it is kind of neat to put it right in the sequence view. Both of it's cool. Both ways work really well. So that was a very good question. Thank you for pointing that out to me. Okay, I've forgotten about that. You know, some of the stuff, you know, I don't use it every day, and so I just forget about that it's actually there. But they've done a lot of really cool stuff to this software. I'm still finding new things, actually. Because, you know, I didn't have this software for like 5 years, and so I'm still finding new things in it every time I get in there to work in it. So, okay, so do you think you can make some cards? What do you think? Does everybody think that they can do this? I bet you can. It's making cards. I didn't, you know, it's just an applique. So you just have to kind of think it through, you know, and then you can put anything on the front of these cards that you want. The basic, you know, the base of it is going to be the same, but then you can just change what you want on the top. Okay. So next week, we are going to start love notes, and so that'll be on Sew Along with Jan. Oh, Jan, you actually can't buy Suite anymore. So some of the people that had the old, because remember, this was originally the Floriani software, and now Floriani software is made by a different company. But if you had the old Floriani software, they had a version that was called Suite and one that was called Pro. And so those people some of them still have the Suite only. And you cannot get the Suite only, you can only get the Pro, is the way Dime does it, since they took it over. That's true, Denise, I think so too. And that's why I sometimes do that, is I write those in. But I'd forgotten that you had to go down to the run, or the like run, fill, whatever level to be able to do that. I just forgot you had to click the little plus button. So that was a very good question. You learn something new every day, don't you? And so anyway, next week will be Sew Along with Jan. We're going to start love notes. We're going to do we're going to do some quilting and appliquing. So we're going to do some quilt as you go. So we haven't really done the quilt as you go before. So we're going to do quilt as you go embroidery with the embroidery and the standard embroidery. So, but that'll be next Sunday. We'll start that. And then the next software class will be, I think it's actually going to be a week later. It's going to be the second week in February, because we're going to, Love Notes is going to run into that. Okay, so anybody else have any other questions? Looks like everybody's understanding. So I'm hoping to see all your cards on the Facebook page. So make sure if you make some cards, make sure you put them up there and show us the pictures. Wait till you see Lynn's, it's really pretty. Mine's not quite that pretty. Mine was a little more basic, but I was very proud of myself because I got the sentiment in there, Lynn. And I got the paper in there. I was really proud of myself. Okay. So thank you so much for joining me for the first class of the year 2021. And we will have another class in February. And then next week we will start our quilt love notes. So on the other group. So thank you everybody and have a really great evening. Good night.